Hello, this is Jake Von der Linde with a screencast about our last Grading for Equity professional development session for this school year. We will be in our departments for this training from 8 a.m. to 11, and you'll be back in your buildings for your site sessions beginning at noon. After our screencast, your facilitator will do a brief check-in activity. As you can see in our agenda, we'll have time to discuss our grading loose and tights, your level of implementation, and identify any next steps. After working through the Grading Loose and Tights document, your department should continue your work on completion of your proficiency scales. Before you leave, we will ask for you to complete a feedback form. As you remember from our screencast on May 9th, we've created a grading landing page that includes our three foundational documents: our Grading Loose and Tights, the vision for our grading practices, and criteria for rubrics. The work that we're doing today connects to both our Grading Loose and Tights document and our Vision for Grading Practices document as we focus on implementation as well as our proficiency scales and rubrics. We've been working on grading for many years now, and the document linked into the slide provides an overview of our professional development and expectations from prior years and for our upcoming school year. We started this work prior to the 22-23 school year, but that is when we formalized the work into more specific professional development for staff. In that school year, you had a chance to read the Grading for Equity book by Joel Feldman and had discussions about it at your buildings. Your building leadership also created some defined grading practices for that school year, and at the district level, we held monthly grading planning meetings that set the groundwork for developing our Grading Loose and Tights and professional development. In the 23-24 school year, we set the 90-10 expectation as a tight and began our work with the Grading Advisory Committee, which developed our grading scale along with our Grading Loose and Tights document. We began that year with differentiated professional learning sessions on creating rubrics and using Mastery Tab. This year, we've worked on refining our Grading Loose and Tights document and our Grading Advisory Committee and provided time and professional development on rubrics and proficiency scales. One area that we removed as a tight was the use of Mastery Tab. Although the system is still available and many find it helpful in their assessment and grading practices, the implementation of it is a loose expectation. As we look forward to the 25-26 school year, we are into the implementation phase of our work. The Grading Loose and Tights document is expected to be followed next year, as well as the use of our rubrics and proficiency scales. So our Grading Loose and Tights document implementation, you should know and be able to use all of the skills on the Roseville Area Schools Secondary Grading Practices document, which is also known as our Grading Loose and Tights doc. It includes the grading scale and minimum grading, reassessment, late penalties, assessing knowledge not behavior, assessing group work, Schoology setup and expectations, Mastery Tab, which is optional, our use of rubrics, and identifying clear learning objectives. And departments should identify loose areas by the beginning of the school year. And teachers will communicate their grading practices in their syllabi at the beginning of a course or trimester. For our rubric and proficiency scale implementation, you're going to continue refinement and be able to use rubric criteria for summative assessments, finalize the development of and be able to use proficiency scales for all identified power standards, use the district proficiency scale language in your rubrics, and have proficiency scales completed for all of your courses by the end of the school year. Today, we are going to prepare for our implementation by reviewing the Roseville Area Schools Secondary Grading Practices document. Like I mentioned, it's also known as the Grading Loose and Tights. You will also continue to describe the level of rigor in your proficiency scales. Please make sure you at least have the satisfactory level defined by the beginning of the next school year in all of your courses. The primary focus of our work this morning is getting you reacquainted with the Roseville Area Schools Secondary Grading Practices document. These practices were developed last school year by the Grading Advisory Committee and have been continued to be refined by the committee over the course of this year. This document was also a major focus of our professional development time on October 16th, when you were able to review and discuss the document with your department. So this is the work that you will begin this morning. Review your Grading Loose and Tights document section by section, and as a department, collaborative team, or common course, depending on your department structure and size, discuss your level of implementation and complete the Start, Stop, and Continue document. The document is linked right at the bottom of this slide and looks like this. You'll review each of your sections and write down the things that you'll start, the practices to start doing, stop doing, and continue. You can add them to each of those columns on both pages. This will show up as a preview template. If you click on Use Template, it'll make a copy for you, and we'll put those into our grading folders that we have for that have been developed for this morning. Make sure to share them with everybody in your group and also your group facilitator. After you've completed the Grading Loose and Tights work, please continue your work on your proficiency scales. Make sure you have your satisfactory level completed. This slide provides a reminder of our vocabulary we've used when discussing the work on proficiency scales. We defined our essential learning through our power standards, and these define the most essential things we want students to master in our courses. They're vertically and horizontally aligned and provide guidance for our guaranteed and viable curriculum. Our proficiency scales are what we began to work on in May of 2024 and continued to work on May 9th of this year. Proficiency scales are a type of rubric that are directly tied to your power standards. Proficiency scales are designed to assess student proficiency in relation to power standards. They're developed by teams for alignment. They include indicators that represent the knowledge and skills that students need to demonstrate. They include explicit expectations for learning at each level and describe what a student can do at each level. They are used to report student attainment of the corresponding standard. And our last definition is for rubrics. We've used proficiency scales and rubrics synonymously in the past, and a proficiency scale is a rubric. It's a rubric that's tied to the power standard or essential standards for a course. And in general, rubrics are evaluation tools that are aligned to our proficiency scales and are used to assess performance on a task in a particular context. Rubrics provide clear guidelines for how student work will be evaluated, and they clarify how well a student has performed with respect to expectations on an assignment or a task. This slide is a reminder of the work that we began on May 9th. If you weren't here, this slide will provide some clarity on your work task for your proficiency scales. This slide is also a repeat from May 9th, but we wanted to share it again to be clear about our loose and tights for our proficiency scales. One of the tights is that all of your courses will have identified the satisfactory level by the beginning of next school year. Another tight is that all of your courses will have all the levels developed from deep to basic completed by the end of next school year. And the loose is that those criteria that you add to your scales. You'll have time to work on these today, and if you need more time next year, a good option for completing these would be during your 3 collaboration and application of learning days. So for today, this is what you need to do. Review the Grading Loose and Tights document section by section. Then as a department, collaborative team, or common course, discuss your level of implementation and complete the Start, Stop, and Continue document. Then put your document into your department folder. We'll explain those and how you access them to your department facilitator so you can access those. And after completing the Grading Loose and Tights activity, continue to add your developing deep and basic levels to your proficiency scale. Thank you for your work today, and please complete the feedback form for attendance at the end of our slides. We've also included the slides from May 9th of this year, as well as the slides from last May, if you'd like any of the information as a reference while you work. Thanks again and have a great day.